Did you know that there are some hands in blackjack that you are so unlikely to win that it is better for you to surrender half of your bet than to actually play out the hand and probably lose all of it? All right, today we're going to go over what those hands are, and there are actually 8 of them that we're going to talk about. All right, starting with this one, which is a 15 versus a dealer's 10. Now, before we tell you why and kind of what to do here, what does surrender even mean? All right, surrender is what happens when you take half of your bet. All right, so here there was $400, and I would take 200 of that, and automatically surrender it to the casino. It goes in their rack, but I get to keep the other half of my bet. All right, whereas if I were to play this hand out, right, whether maybe I stay there or something, right, and I would lose all of it. So in that sense, it's better that you didn't lose all of your bet because, like I said earlier, these are hands that you are so unlikely to win that it is better for you to just cut your losses, right, and walk out of there with a little bit of money, okay? So there are 8 of these hands. This is the first one, a 15 versus the dealer's 10. And when you're playing normal basic strategy, there are 4 that kind of stick out on the chart. In fact, I'll put the chart here on the screen for you. We have a 15 versus the dealer's 10. I'll put this off to the side maybe. There is also a 16 versus a dealer's ace. Okay, and a couple others here. There is a 16 versus a dealer's 10, and the last one is going to be a 16 versus a dealer's 9. All right. Now, I mentioned that there's going to be 8 of these, and that is true. But the other 4 we'll talk about here come with what's called deviations. So these are the 4 hands that, again, it's better for you to lose half of your initial bet and to keep the other half than to play this hand out. Now, before you go trying this at any old casino, right now in the United States, I read something recently where there are only about 20% of the casinos that actually have this rule. And that said, it's probably not at every single table. This is usually going to be found in your high limit rooms or maybe, at tables on the main floor where there's a $100 or $50 chip limit for the minimums, okay, something like that. Now, not always. Sometimes you can find it when it's available. But the point is that if you do find a game that has surrender, it's probably going to be a little bit better of an edge for you, for the player, than playing somewhere that does not offer surrender. So real quick, if we go through this, of course, you do want to surrender all 4 of these hands if that is an option. In fact, I talked about in a different video kind of an order of operations where the first thing that you want to do, like let's take this hand right here, would be to buy insurance if the count is high enough. Okay, that would be the first thing. And then after that, the next thing is to surrender. Okay, so if the count was not high enough, but surrender was an option, I would want to surrender this hand. Then after that, you get into your splits, your double downs, and then finally hit and stand. So let's say that this table does not offer surrender. What would the correct decisions be then? Well, a 15 versus a 10 using basic strategy for this hand, that would be just to hit this hand, okay? Now, there are deviations when you get high enough. When the count gets to be a true count of +4 or higher, you would actually stand if surrender is not an option. On this one, a 16 versus a dealer's ace, you would also hit this, okay? Again, there is a deviation if the count gets high enough. If it gets to a +3 or higher, you would stand on it. A 16 versus a dealer's 10, this is probably one of the most common deviations. So first off, it's going to be a hit using perfect basic strategy. But if the count is just a running positive, anything positive, you are actually going to stand on a 16 versus a dealer's 10. Then the last one is 16 versus a dealer's 9. It has the same deviation as a 15 versus a dealer's 10, where you are going to stand at a true count of +4 or higher. And if it's not a +4 or higher, this would be a normal hit using perfect basic strategy. All right, so those are kind of the 4 that have to deal with just basic strategy. And you'll notice here that the video is kind of coming to an end because the other 4 that deal with surrender, I'm actually going to talk about on my Patreon page. So I would encourage you guys to maybe go over there and follow me if you're interested in that. It does cost a little bit to check out the video course. It's going to be my middle tier there on Patreon. But if you want to know when the other surrender options happen, that's going to be over on my Patreon. So until next time, this is A1 Blackjack.